Folks, it's not every day I get to speak to royalty. I don't even really know how to address him. Your Royal Keithness? I don't know. Sir Keith Mills, welcome to Sailing Anarchy. It's nice to see you, sir.
Keith is just fine.
Keith is fine? I hear him all say sir, and I say it to Sir Robin, but I feel like when I said Robin, he kind of looked at me funny,
No, he's of a different generation.
Welcome to Sailing Anarchy. Obviously, we've been following you and your projects for a long time, some with varying degrees of approval. But I guess before we get into what you're here really for, I wonder, I've been wanting to ask you for a long time. You've now, I'm sure, watched some of the America's Cup stuff. You're paying attention to the new boats in New Zealand and Prada, and obviously Oracle's big mess. What do you think of what's going on? And not necessarily whether it's good for the sport, but whether it is the America's Cup or not.
I think it's an interesting experiment. And when Russell and Oracle announced two and a half years ago what their vision for the America's Cup was, we took a hard look at it. I took a hard look at it, and I couldn't see it. And I couldn't see it on three levels. And it certainly wasn't what I discussed with Larry before Oracle won the America's Cup.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had that happen to them.
And we decided to pull Team Origin out because we didn't think it was viable economically. We didn't like the 72-foot cat. We didn't think that was a boat that could sail an America's Cup race safely, and then thirdly, we didn't like the governance, the way that it was being set up. So, it wasn't for us. It clearly has been for other teams, and I'll certainly try and be in San Francisco to see what happens. It should be a really interesting America's Cup, but not the America's Cup that I was interested in.
Right, fair enough. And on one hand, it's the America's Cup's 150 years. Of that 150 years, it's only actually been economically viable for 4 or maybe 8, and then only because it was very concentrated in a small part of Europe that was good for a lot of viewers and people interested. But I sort of, it's pretty easy to look at those 72s and think, it's really just the modern version of a J-class yacht.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. And time will tell. And I'm certainly not going to prejudge what happens this summer next year. It may just be fantastic, and if so, good luck to everyone, and I'll be there watching what happens with great interest. But I had to make a decision 2.5 years ago because it's a big commitment of people and resources and money and time, and I was also getting ready for the Olympic Games, which is another issue I had on my plate.
A little bit busy, yeah.
So I had to make a tough decision. It was a tough call, and it was a tough call because we had a great team. Ben Aisley as a skipper, had Grant Simmer running the team, and a great design team. We had a great package, but net, I just didn't think it was viable.
When you did the study, how much did you feel that it was necessary to lay out in order to go and have a chance?
Well, with all these things, you have to start early, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why Team New Zealand are doing well. They started really, really early. They got their boat in the water early. They learnt a lot. And we were going to have to start designing and building immediately. But I just didn't feel comfortable that either the class or the economics or the way it was going to be run and operated was viable for me. I recognise that others have different opinions, but as I was writing the checks out, I took the hard decision.
With Ben saying at least that he's going to be back for the next cycle, obviously who knows what that's going to mean, but does that mean that you'll be probably involved? I mean, you're very, very invested in all the Olympic sailors in England, obviously, and does that mean you're part of it?
Well, I had dinner with Ben on Monday of this week, so we keep in close touch, and I think we're going to have to wait and see how this thing pans out. If Oracle retain the America's Cup and decide to do it again with 72-foot cats and with a set of economics that I think are crazy, then I won't be any part of it. But I hear that everyone's having a rethink, and we'll see what comes out at the end of the rethink.
I'm going to still say my opinion, which is I want 60-foot cats without these stupid restrictions against foiling, which just cost BMW or cost Oracle $10 million or whatever it is. 60-foot cats, unrestricted foiling, as many hulls as you want, as few hulls as you want, make it a box and make it somewhat affordable, but really, really fast. 60-foot boat's a lot cheaper than a 72-foot boat.
I agree. And listen, the AC45, the World Series, I think a great series, and some fantastic racing, close racing, and that's what sport should be. And it's accessible. and the America's Cup could be a much bigger sport if it were more accessible.
Let's switch off to why you're here. Sir Keith and his team are developing the commercial potential of IMOCA, trying to make it more international. And I guess what I'm wondering most is you've got to have an action plan in your head. And I know you haven't gone down the road, but I'm wondering what the first big moves are to see what's in the water for you guys, and what then steps you're going to take over the next couple of years.
Well, the great thing about IMOCA is it's been around a long time. There are a lot of teams and a lot of great, well-established events like the Vendée Globe that we're here to watch the start of tomorrow. 20 teams tomorrow on the start line, and a massive following in France. The problem is there's not a massive following anywhere else, and so the field of competitors is still dominated by the French. IMOCA want to expand that, and I think as a commercial proposition, that's really interesting because we have we've got a great basis to build on. We're not starting from a clean sheet of paper here. And I think with some really smart commercial brains putting together a really smart plan, we can take over the next 4 years IMOCA to a new place where it'll attract more commercial support, more teams from more countries, and build a much bigger worldwide audience.
Do you feel like your team, along with Talbot and IMOCA, has the juice to get these guys to buy in? If you say, look, Ivory soap, they want the Ivory 60, okay? Whatever. One of these things that will make the traditionalists go insane. Will make some of the older guys go insane, even if there's cash involved. Do you think that you guys will have the juice to make some of these more tough decisions stick?
The only way this is going to work is if we make their job, the skippers, easier. And if it's easier for them to raise commercial sponsorship, if it's easier for them to do more events, if it's easier for them to build bigger audiences, then they'll listen to us. And IMOCA is an organisation that's been around a long time, but the 90 members, the AGM, all 90, 100%. Pressed the button and agreed to move this into a new commercial space and sign the deal with Open Sports Management. So we have fantastic support from them, and they know, I know, most of the people around the Vendée Globe and around Open 60 Racing knows this has massive potential. It just has been untapped, and it requires somebody to put some money and some energy and some smart thinking behind it to bring it to life.
I know we've been critical of the Volvo, for instance, and not to compare it, but of the Volvo, because whenever they try and push into a new market, sometimes they're successful and sometimes they're not. I know, just looking at America, I've watched for 3 cycles now, watch them try to push into the American market, and with actually some of the same people that you have on your team. Marcus was there, and Leslie was there, and they failed. And I've always said it's because they did not have a group that understood it. But I'm looking at your group that wants to make this international. I see a bunch of English people. Do you anticipate the group bringing in Spanish, bringing in Americans, bringing in people to help advise and make it happen?
Sure. No, this is an international business. We're basing it in Switzerland. It is not going to be French-centric nor dominated by a bunch of Brits. We have to have an international outlook. The sort of people we're talking to are people that deal with international properties. Some of the people come from the Olympic world, who deal with, in fact, I think half of the Olympic sponsors are all big American corporations. The biggest television deal is with NBC for the Olympic Games. So, this is a very international approach. Is it going to be easy to crack the US market? Absolutely not. The graveyard is littered with businesses and sports properties that have tried to crack the US market. So I don't think we're under any illusion that that's going to be a high priority. Although I hope one day it will be. But I think there are some lower hanging fruit, starting with bringing the stories off these boats and off these races much more frequently and more vividly to the public, and that means putting technology on these boats, which is available now. and packaging it up in a way that excites an audience, whether it's online or on television. That's what we need to do to start with, and we can do that by probably bringing a naming rights partner for the whole IMOCA series. That's probably the two things we'll focus on next year in 2013.
How much would that cost?
A lot of money.
I mean, I don't know how much the Volvo puts in, but it's got to be worth many millions to be on every Open 60 and on the Vendée Globe with your name up front, right?
It's a very attractive proposition for a sponsor to be on every Open 60 race over a 4-year period, and all the stuff that goes around that is a very attractive proposition. So that's the priority number one. And with that sort of commitment, we can start investing in the significant technology that's necessary on every boat.
Let's talk timelines. How long does it take you guys to put together your analysis of what the property's worth and then start to go beat the bushes for the money?
Well, we've got a straw man plan already. We wouldn't have started this business had we not had a pretty good idea of what we were going to do. What we're doing right now, what we've been doing this week in Sable-d'Olonne here, is talking to all the skippers, all the sponsors, the race organisers, and really trying to understand from them what are the issues that face them, so that the plans that we eventually bring to IMOCA in February are plans that both reflect our vision but take into account the practicalities that all these teams face.
Fair enough. As a guy who has spent a lot of time figuring out how to get images and video off of boats for really cheap, how do you design? I mean, who do you go to? How do you figure out a way to design this? What does it look like when I go to the Vendée Globe and for the Johnson & Johnson Vendée Globe in 4 years? What do I see when I get to the website? Because I don't have a TV. Like most people, it's like this very quick thing where there's no TV anymore, and a lot, if people under 30 don't have TVs anymore because you don't need them. But what does it look like when I get to the website?
Well, there are two things. And I don't have the answer to all the questions. So,
what's your vision, though?
The vision is that people are captivated by stories, so we need to have a storytelling format which captures everyone's imagination, and that's an editorial approach to how we capture this race. This isn't a 1-hour America's Cup race. These are races that take weeks and months to complete. So how do you capture the stories and package them in an imaginative way that's really interesting? That's the sort of editorial part of the exercise. And then there's a technical aspect. How do you take the images off the boat technically and distill them into film footage that perhaps will be a 2-minute slot on YouTube or perhaps a 2-hour program on Eurosport? How do you do that? I'm told, and I'm not a technical expert, although I do have an iPad, that's my concession to modernity, but I'm told that the technology exists there. It's not cheap, but it's perfectly possible to take daily feeds from all these boats, distill them, edit them, and package them, and distribute them. Absolutely. That's what we're going to do.
You have been one of sailing's biggest philanthropists for a long time. We know how much you put into various things, not only the Sailors Welfare Program of Team Origin and just having lots and lots of people working, but also you put money into youth sailing, the Olympic sailing, and everything else for, I don't even know, decades. Is this a labor of love because you think open racing's cool, and because you're Alex Thompson is one of your boys, and because you want to see it grow? I mean, you've probably already put in thousands and thousands on due diligence. It's going to cost hundreds of thousands more just to get it off the ground. Is this charity, or can this be a viable business for you guys?
I'm involved in sailing because I love the sport. And actually, now the Olympics are out of the way, I hope to get out on the boat and do some sailing next year. But this OSM is a commercial venture, and actually all the millions that I've lost on stupid ventures like the America's Cup, I hope to regain through the OSM business. This is a straight business decision. I looked at the business opportunity of taking the IMOCA circuit with a very long-term agreement. This is a big, long relationship, and building it into a really viable long-term business in which we hope to make lots of money.
Mark's done pretty well, like with the same mentality, and it's definitely doable, and I think the markets are ready for it if you just give it to them right. 2 more quick questions, and I'll let you go. you building any new boats now that you have some time? I mean, what are we going to see Sir Keith racing in a couple of years?
No, I'm going to take my TP52 out next year and perhaps do some of the med events. And then it depends really how much time I have. I mean, I have lots of businesses. I'm involved in lots of sport and football and various other things. So it's all down to priorities and time. But I'm certainly getting on the water next year and doing some racing.
I've never had a Knight of the British Empire to ask this question. How often do you read Sailing Anarchy?
I actually, this is a great plug for Anarchy. I pretty much look up every day. The great thing about Anarchy is you don't take yourself too seriously, and there are a lot in sailing that do. And at the end of the day, this should be fun and entertaining and interesting, and that's what we hope to do with IMOCA, make it fun and interesting and entertaining.
If it's not fun, why would you do it?
Exactly. We've got other things to do in life.
Have a good day. Great. Thank you so much.